නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස.
What is Abhidhamma? The question of what is wholesome and what is unwholesome, what are wholesome actions and what are unwholesome actions, receives different answers across different cultures. Depending on one's religion, the answer to this may vary. However, in this world, everyone lives through food. All beings desire happiness. They dislike suffering. All are afraid of death. Everyone's body will eventually perish. In everyone's life, joy and sorrow arise and cease, along with various thoughts. All beings live under the same sun and moon. Given this reality, the definitions of good and bad, wholesome and unwholesome actions, should not depend on religion. They should not depend on culture. The process of life occurs according to the law of cause and effect. The principles that govern this process must be a universal law of Dhamma. Whether it is a Christian, a Muslim, a Hindu devotee, or a Buddhist, if greed, hatred, and delusion arise, they exist as causes of suffering. Similarly, non-greed, loving-kindness, and wisdom, no matter who possesses them, exist as causes for benefit. When someone who has attained complete understanding of the world appears in this world, such enlightened one will explain what is wholesome and unwholesome, meaning righteous and errant, without bias toward any religion, culture, nation, or individual. He will reveal suffering, happiness, the existence of the world, and the end of suffering, as a universal Dhamma principle. That is Abhidhamma. Why was the Abhidhamma taught? In the world, many things are commonly accepted as good: giving, dana, observing precepts, sila, caring for the sick, helping others, associating with wise, respecting worthy of respect, and so on. Like this, various forms of wholesome actions exist. By describing what is fundamental nature underlying to all of these actions, underlying mental states, all wholesome actions can be represented in essence. By doing this, the Blessed One, Buddha, reduces the burden of having to repeatedly say, "This action is good, that action is also good." An intelligent disciple need not ask again and again, "Is this action good? Is that action good?" The Blessed One need not be bothered repeatedly. With wisdom, one can easily examine whether their own mind is inclined towards the wholesome. In certain cultures and societies, what is considered good may, in reality, not be wholesome, kusala, but unwholesome, akusala. One cannot judge a person's actions solely based on external behavior and declare it as definitively wholesome. Abhidhamma addresses this very problem. There are also many kinds of unwholesome actions: killing, pragta, stealing, lying, slander, sexual misconduct, kama-mikakara, and so on. The mental natures that give rise to all of these are also described in the Abhidhamma, and by understanding them, all unwholesome actions are essentially made clear. Again, by doing this, the Blessed One, Bhagwan, avoids having to repeatedly say, "This action is bad, that action is also bad." An intelligent disciple need not question repeatedly, "Is this bad? Is that bad?" There is no need to bother the Buddha again and again. Through wisdom, one can easily assess whether their mind has turned toward the unwholesome. In some cultures and societies, what is commonly accepted as bad may actually, in reality, be wholesome, not unwholesome. One cannot judge purely based on external behavior and definitively label it unwholesome. By explaining the Abhidhamma, the Blessed One ensured that people would not mistakenly perceive wholesome as unwholesome, or unwholesome as wholesome. To understand the world, one must also understand rupa, matter or form. Rupa includes many different types: trees, rocks, skin, flesh, etc. The Abhidhamma presents a common framework through which all rupas can be examined. Through that, the Bhagwan has shown a clear path to understanding rupas in terms of the three characteristics: talakaranika, impermanence; dukkha, suffering; and anatta, non-self. The primary purpose of the Bhagwan through the Abhidhamma was not to describe the subtle ultimate realities of the world in exhaustive detail. Once, while in the Arya forest, the Blessed One took a small handful of leaves and compared the Dhamma he had taught to that handful, implying that what remained untaught was like the countless leaves in the forest. This was because such knowledge was not essential for realization of the truth. During the time when the Bhagwan appeared in the world, there were other spiritual teachers who tried to explain the nature of the world in various ways. Some of them described the world based only on the narrow range of their own personal experiences. Others carefully studied the thought patterns and preferences of the people in society at that time and, motivated by the desire to gather followers, formulated religious doctrines to suit them. There were wandering ascetics like Sanjaya Bellahaputa who, when asked, "Is this action unwholesome, akusala?" would answer, "I do not think it is unwholesome, nor do I think it is wholesome, kusala, nor do I think of it in any other way. I have no opinion about that question," thus slipping away from any commitment like an eel. They followed a policy of evasion. The Blessed One critically analyzed such false views of other sectarians. For this reason, the Bhagwan carried the responsibility of declaring precisely what is wholesome and unwholesome, and the true nature of the world. Beyond what is visible to ordinary people, Bhagwan with compassion has to teach the reality of life across the three time periods, past, present, and future, using the omniscient wisdom of a fully enlightened one, Samasambuddha. Although the nature of the four Apaya realms, woeful states, or the divine worlds may seem astonishing to human beings, for the Brahmakaika Devas, beings in the Brahma realms, these descriptions are nothing surprising. Hearing such detailed explanations does not particularly amaze them about the Blessed One. It is when the Abhidhamma discourse unfolds, revealing the nature of all Dhammas and the interrelations between them through the boundless, limitless wisdom of the Bhagwan, that even some of the Brahma kings come to feel deep reverence and admiration for the Blessed One. Highly intelligent scholars of the world and noble seekers of truth gained clarity sada, faith, when they heard the Abhidhamma. Yet, for some of them, whole Abhidhamma may not have been essential for attaining Nibbana. Among them, there were those who attained the path and fruit, Magga and Phala, by deeply contemplating a single Dhamma verse. But they began with sada, faith, as their foundation. Trusting the Bhagwan and Dhamma, they contemplated Dhamma verse deeply. The Bhagwan has said, Sadhaya Tarati Yoga. With faith, one crosses the flood of defilements. Hence, even those with sharp intellect might not progress if they lack faith, despite the presence of the Abhidhamma. One of the most crucial teachings the Blessed One presented about the nature of life is the Anatalakika, the characteristic of non-self. Bhagwan pointed out that there is no eternal, unchanging core or soul, Atma, within us. Understanding this characteristic of life is a critical part of Vipassana Bhavana, insight meditation. Realizing this truth is essential for breaking free from sasra and for liberation from numerous mental sufferings. However, when one says, there is no self, it becomes necessary to also clearly explain what does exist truly, recognizing the diversity among individuals, while also understanding that there is no self, adds more meaning. During various actions, one may generate a strong sense of self or I. Therefore, the different activities tied to a person must be explained through the lens of the Anatalakika, meaning the impermanent decisions, satana, thinking, and other mental activities related to those actions should be analyzed. Otherwise, the Dhamma may be misunderstood as nihilistic. One might mistakenly think that there is no result from action, or that proper decision-making bears no fruit. If someone hears about the Anatalakika without proper explanation, they might wrongly believe that looking at the world with upekkha, equanimity, is sufficient. But that is not the path of Dhamma. Wholesome qualities, kusala, must be developed. Unwholesome qualities, akusala, must be abandoned. However, there is no person or self who cultivates or abandons. It is only nama-rupa, mind and matter processes. Therefore, when teaching the Anatalakika, when explaining the dangers of Sakaya Daihi, personality view, even though there is no self, it is crucial to clarify what does exist, what continues, and what occurs. This must be seen through direct experience in one's own life. Instead of describing life in terms of an Atma, a self or soul, the Blessed One explained it through the functioning of Namarupa, mind and matter. Bhagwan showed how individual differences can be seen based on the distinct characteristics of these mental and physical phenomena. However, Blessed One also emphasized the anakkata, the impermanence of these nama and rupa. A dog's sense of I arises when its mind and body come to awareness. Likewise, a human sense of self emerges when mental states and physical characteristics become the focus of attention. Therefore, rather than directly saying, there is no self, the Blessed One precisely stated that there is no self in rupa, and that there is no self in Vedana, Sana, Sakra, or Vaya, the various divisions of mental phenomena. By doing so, the Blessed One introduced a practical approach for disciples to understand the Anatalakika, the characteristic of non-self. Hence, in order to comprehend non-self, it is necessary to explain the impermanent mental and physical phenomena, namarupa, that make up life. Through the Abhidhamma teachings, these specific mental states and physical characteristics are described in detail. As per Anatalakika, understanding the anakkata, impermanence, of the world is extremely important. When one comprehends how any Dhamma arises through a combination of multiple causes, they gain a deeper insight into its impermanent nature. The Dhammas of the world do not exist independently or according to one's desires. They exist conditionally, dependent on other Dhammas. The more one understands this conditioned existence, this Sakata Sabhava, the more clearly one sees the unstable and non-fixed nature of Namarupa Dhammas. In the Abhidhamma discourse, the Blessed One expounded the law of Hetu-Phala, cause and effect, in a vast and detailed manner. For one who becomes familiar with this, doubts regarding life and the nature of the world gradually fade away. Because many facets of life are covered within the Abhidhamma, a contemplative analyst gains a comprehensive understanding. Therefore, the Blessed One gave the Abhidhamma teachings to clearly reveal a trustworthy and lasting path that one can follow with confidence and stability over time. It was through the study of the Abhidhamma that I gained a definite understanding about the nature of life, the Dhamma path I must follow, and what is possible or not possible in the world. Amidst various confused explanations that may appear Dhamma-like but are not truly Dhamma, the Abhidhamma gives one confidence to return again and again to the true path without wasting time, with full conviction in the direction toward the final goal. Some sutta discourses delivered by the Blessed One were tailored to suit the character of the individual disciple. Sometimes, these discourses were framed using words familiar to the listener, designed to match their current mental state and point them from there, toward the needed spiritual foundation. For one who cannot progress due to a weakness in sila, virtue, the Blessed One would speak of the benefits of virtue. For one trapped in Mikadai, wrong view, Bhagwan would offer knowledge about the nature of the world to free them from it. For a mind tainted by hatred, dosa, the benefits of metta, loving kindness, and the dangers of hatred would be explained. Thus, many sutta discourses were targeted toward people of different mental levels and character types. They were also adapted to suit the common usage of words and language in society at the time. And in contrast, there are also general suttas meant to guide all beings alike, regardless of character or background. Due to this diversity of sutta styles and meanings, especially today, we see conflicting and seemingly contradictory interpretations of the Dhamma. Some people try to interpret Buddhism based solely on a few suttas. Others focus only on a single Nikaya, such as the Daya Nikaya, and derive meaning accordingly. Still others judge only by their personal experiences and introduce narrow, unexamined opinions without comparing with other views. As a result of these many perspectives, we now observe conflicting and incompatible interpretations of the Dhamma. Because of this, even trust in some sutta teachings has diminished in certain individuals. Since the meanings of different suttas may seem to contradict one another, some people hesitate to study suttas at all. Sometimes, the meanings of suttas are completely misunderstood. It is our belief that, for anyone intending to deepen their vipassana, insight, practice, a well-grounded understanding of Abhidhamma is extremely beneficial. The accuracy of the previous statement can only be validated if the knowledge of Abhidhamma presented in this book, and the insight manual that follows based on that foundation, provides practical benefits to the reader. The Abhidhamma Piyaka consists of 6 books. 1. Dhammasiga Prakara 2. Vibhaga Prakara 3. Datukatha 4. Pugalapanati 5. Yamaka Prakara 6. Pana Prakara in the Abhidhamma, the various Namarupa Dhammas, mental and physical phenomena, are first defined and explained. Then, their multiple classifications are introduced, followed by the ways they arise, pass away, interrelate, and influence one another, all of which are systematically laid out. The Thera elders who compiled the Dhamma systematically organized the definitions related to Namarupa, mind and matter, into the text known as the Dhammasiga Prakara. The various classifications of those are elaborated in the Vibhaga Prakara. The patterns of arising and ceasing, tied to impermanence, are compiled in the Yamaka Prakara, and the interdependent causal relations of those Namarupa phenomena are meticulously organized in the Pana Prakara. Because of this deeply interconnected structure of the Abhidhamma, it is not possible to properly study the latter texts without thoroughly understanding the foundational definitions and concepts related to Namarupa that come first. Therefore, it is difficult to study the Abhidhamma Piyaka, starting from the middle. Since the content builds layer by layer, if one becomes confused at the beginning, many later sections will also become misunderstood or contradictory. However, in the Sutta Piyaka, it is often not necessary to understand one sutta in order to understand another. For this reason, studying suttas can be easier than studying the Abhidhamma Piyaka. That being said, this does not imply that the Abhidhamma is deeper than the suttas. In fact, some sutta passages are extremely profound, even though many people might believe them to be simple at first glance. For example, when the Blessed One asks, if something is impermanent, is it dukkha or sukha? And the monks respond, it is dukkha. It is seen that many venerable monks attain the path and fruit, Maggaphala, by contemplating that very teaching. Thus, although that passage seems simple, it is in fact extremely deep. The Abhidhamma begins with a definition of the mind under Kusala Dhamma, wholesome states. Then the Akusala Dhamma, unwholesome states, are defined, and afterward analysis the nature of rupa, material form, introduced. Therefore, the structure and organization of the Abhidhamma takes on a format different from most suttas, and it must be that way. Nonetheless, in terms of fundamental truths of the Dhamma, there is no contradiction or deviation between the suttas and the Abhidhamma. Although it has been stated that the Abhidhamma Piyaka should ideally be studied sequentially from the beginning, it must also be noted that certain sections, particularly from the Pugalapanati Prakara and parts of the Vibhaga Prakara, can be understood even by someone without much prior knowledge. Important Dhamma points are compiled in those places in a manner that is both simple and precise. Within the Abhidhamma discourse, the Blessed One has clearly analyzed the many aspects of the mind, its diverse expressions, and the multiple facets of material form, rupa. It thoroughly highlights and distinguishes various wholesome emotions, unwholesome emotions, and mental states that are neither wholesome nor unwholesome. From the Brahmakaika beings to the Devas, humans, and even the beings in the four apayas, woeful states, the Abhidhamma reveals the vast diversity of existence. It also describes the subtle material phenomena that exist in the external world and within the bodies of beings. Though it is an extremely extensive teaching, the Dhamma points are beautifully ordered, connecting the beginning, middle, and end without contradiction. This arrangement provides a deeply systematic flow of knowledge. For someone who studies it, such clarity gives rise to a powerful sense of faith in the extraordinary realization of the Blessed One.